Assalamu alaikum dear students. In our today's lesson we shall be looking at the textbook questions of the story Pappachi's Moth. The very first question we have in the textbook is character sketch of Pappachi and Mammachi. And we shall be looking first at Pappachi's character, then on Mammachi's. Pappachi, as you know, is the important and the most important, the central character in the story. Pappachi is a harsh, jealous man who beats Mammachi regularly. He does not like Mammachi's work of making pickles. He thinks that this menial job to be done by his wife is against the dignity of a high-ranking ex-government official. Pappachi is a rude person. He hides his age, tries to wear beautiful dresses, and he has a car and doesn't allow anybody in his family to use it. And he always tries to pretend. He always tries to be a royal person. And he is an imperial entomologist by profession, and he was retired equivalent to the rank of director of the Department of Entomology. The greatest setback of his life was not having had the moth that he had discovered named after him. He dies as a result of a massive heart attack, and his death is grieved most by his wife Mammachi. Then the character of Mammachi. Mammachi is an important character in the story, the god of small things. She is the wife of Pappachi and has twin children, namely Chakku and Ammu. Mammachi is young and looks beautiful and is full youth. She is 17 years younger than her husband. She is a hard worker but a primitive type of Indian woman. She starts Paradise Pickles and preserves and builds it into a successful business before turning it over to Chakku. Some people believe Mammachi is sort of your typical cranky lady. She seems very stubborn and set in her beliefs and habits. But she is not an arrogant woman. She is humble. She belongs to a male-dominating society. She is a victim of male dominance. She reflects Indian traditional woman. Her husband harshly beats her every night, but she does not complain or disclose it to anyone. She is a loyal wife. At Pappachi's funeral, she cries and her contact lenses slide around at her eyes. In the end, she is nearly blind and plays a mean violin. Then we have question number 2. I never want this to happen again. He told his father ever. Who says it and why? And these words are spoken by Chakku, and he is speaking to his father when he strode into the room when Pappachi was beating Mammachi in the study room. Then we have question number 3. Ammu told the twins that Mammachi was crying more because she was used to him than because she loved him. In the light of this statement, Mammachi's daughter comment on the relationship between Pappachi and Mammachi. The relationship between these two, Pappachi and Mammachi, is Pappachi and Mammachi had a gap of 17 years in age. A retired high-ranking officer, Pappachi was always jealous of Mammachi's talent and of the attention she received. Whether it was pickle making or her violin classes in Vienna, Pappachi was always jealous of her. Despite of all the friction they had in their relationship, Mamachi bore with him. Mamachi was more used to Pappachi and was not exactly in love with him. Pappachi used to beat him. Pappachi used to beat her with brass vases, and still Mamachi could not let go of him. She wept bitterly on his funeral, not because the man she had loved was gone, but because he will not be around her anymore. He was an old shoe for her, and she could not let go of him. She was too attached to him, to having his launching around the pickle factory, and of course used to being beaten by him. Then we have question number 4. How does Mamachi stand out as an independent and resilient woman in the text? Mamachi was a woman who was not encouraged by her husband. As she had lots of talent, she got the attention from others. Though she was old and blind, she could play violin. Though her husband was jealous of her growing popularity, she stood out as an independent and resilient woman throughout the text. And then we have question number 5. Pick out the elements of irony in the lesson. Pappachi's Moth presents much of ironies. In the beginning of the story, we are told how Pappachi discovered a new species of moth and wanted taxonomic attention. Despite being at the rank of joint director at Pusa Institute, he was made to wait for 6 long months and finally told that the moth had nothing in it to be termed as another species. But when Pappachi retired, the same moth was again examined, and this time termed as a separate species and genus hitherto unknown to science. The irony of the fact was that it was now named after the acting director of the Department of Entomology, a junior officer whom Pappachi always disliked. This episode was enough to make Pappachi ill-humored, and in the later phase of his life he started disregarding every support extended to him by his family mates. When Mamachi started her pickle making business and tried to strengthen the financial position of the family, Pappachi started backbiting at her and beating her every evening. He would lend his neighbors the perception that his wife doesn't take care of him. This is the biggest irony of the story. And then we have the next question, and the last, in fact, identify instances of humor in the story. Pappachi is a retired officer having a very unrealistic outlook. It's humorous to note that Pappachi considers pickle making an inferior job, but to be parasite on the family does not make him feel inferior anyway. After being warned by Cheku, Pappachi ignored the food plates and in the moonlight night smashed his favorite mahogany rocking chair with a monkey wrench into pieces. Pappachi is buying a sky blue Plymouth and coasting down a narrow road in his white car makes him a laughing stock in the summer days. The Plymouth Pappachi keeps sweating his Pappachi's body keeps sweating inside the car. Pappachi sews the buttons on his shirts, though they are not actually broken. This he does for giving the people the notion that Mamachi does no care of him. These are some of the instances of humor. In fact, there are many, but I have discussed a few. And this completes this lesson, Pappachi's Moth. Thank you, dear students. Have a nice day.